Alex Fleener asks, is it time to remove the Cup Series race limit for the Truck Series and try to get the chaos under control? I know how you feel about Cup regulars in the Truck Series, Brandon. I know how I feel. I know how our friend Josh Birch feels. I know how my editor-in-chief at lastcar.info, Brock Beard, feels. I know how my co-writer at lastcar.info, William Soki, feels. But it's, again, like I said, hard to deny we have a problem here. Is that a solution that you would consider, maybe easing the limitations at the very least for drivers like Kyle Busch to do as many races as possible, or do you think that that's not a viable solution here?
Well, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, we are at war, Anakin. And sometimes when you're in war, you have to do take some drastic measures and do some things you hate. I think this might be one of those times, and I don't want to be inconsistent moving around the opinion spectrum to and fro, but it wouldn't hurt. They need some experience to be driving around. Now, that experience is going to be winning the majority of those races that they are in. That's just what bushwhackers do. But I don't see a different avenue right now. We'll be thinking about it. Of course, we're not the ones that make the decisions. We get to just talk about it, but it's interesting.
It is interesting, and I think that that's probably why they haven't been banned outright. You know, you still have occasional races, and you know, depending on them running different races, you know, Kyle Busch's 5 races might not be, you know, Brad Keselowski's 5 or Joey Logano's 5, or, you know, Denny Hamlin comes back and runs Darlington every year. You know, in the Xfinity Series, Corey LaJoie was in the, you know, he's doing stuff with Spire in trucks. You know, it's I don't know that it's something that we can look at this and say, well, if Kyle Busch was in this truck race at Daytona, it would have been completely different, right? I think the solution is more Matt Crafton. Don't fight Nick Sanchez after the race at Talladega. Don't do what you did last year there. Johnny Sauter, you know, maybe reel it in on the radio a little bit. He's been known to be one of the radio sweethearts, to borrow a phrase from Radioactive. Yeah. Be like Grant Enfinger, Truck Series lifer, championship contender last year, had an opportunity to just go full Austin Dillon on Eric Almirola and completely move Ben Rhodes up into the wall, maybe dump him entirely for a championship last year. GMS would go out on top, but he chose not to. He raced with respect. Ben Rhodes himself, now a 2-time truck champion. I think, what is it, his 9th year in trucks now? It's kind of, you know, amazing to think about that, but I think he's firmly established himself as a truck lifer now. You know, I think it's up to guys like him to rebuild this series identity and be this generation's Hornaday and Skinner and Bodine and Benson and so on and so forth. That's what I would like to see, rather than, as Adam mentions here, Kyle Busch being on the entry list at Atlanta again this weekend, you know, and no longer having people say, well, at least he's doing it in his own truck. I mean, it's the team that bought his old trucks, but that excuse anymore either. I would like to see the Truck Series kind of return to that blend of, yes, some teams use it as a development series, but again, you still have your truck lifers, your veterans of the sport who, you know, I mean, again, Matt Crafton has been racing this series longer than, I mean, goodness, now I'd say maybe half the field has even been alive. You know, you go back to, you know, the end of 2000, beginning of 2001 when he got started in trucks, and he's been there ever since. I'll say it again. One of the most underrated, remarkable streaks in NASCAR history, I think, is his consecutive start streak in trucks, which you can argue maybe should have come to an end last year because of what he did at Talladega, and that was incredibly disappointing. But I think it highlights the need for drivers like him to be that veteran voice in the garage area for this series and call people out when, you know, stuff like this happens. Alex mentions here in the chat as well. Unfortunately, I think Matt Crafton is part of the problem. We need more Enfingers and less Craftons, and Adam echoing that as well. And Joe saying, trucks used to have retired Cup drivers like Skinner, Musgrave. It would be nice if some came and raced trucks, but probably don't want to deal with the mess. Well, here's a name for you, Ty Dillon. He's back in trucks this year. He's in the ride that Matt DiBenedetto just vacated, who was a Cup Series driver for a couple of years. I mean, that's, again, kind of a throwback to what the Truck Series used to be, because Mike Skinner used to be a Cup driver. You know, Ron Hornaday did a season in Cup with AJ Foyt's team. Todd Bodine was the same way. Johnny Benson was the same way. It's not like those guys were necessarily truck lifers. They made it to Cup for a couple of years. Things didn't work out as well as they would have hoped. So they came back to trucks and found a home there and made a great career for themselves. And Hornaday's in the Hall of Fame, as far as I'm concerned. Jack Sprague is long overdue for at least getting on the nomination ballot. Mike Skinner probably has a case as well. That's, again, what I would like to see the Truck Series return to. I think that is part of how we are going to fix this identity problem that we have.